The billionaire's face hit the plate. Hard. James Whitmore's body jerked violently. Once, twice. Like electricity was tearing through him. His eyes rolled back until only the whites showed. Foam bubbled from his mouth, thick and white. His face turned the color of a drowned man, blue spreading from his lips, then purple creeping across his cheeks. Everyone froze. 20 people in that restaurant. 20 phones out recording. Nobody moved. Nobody helped. Except Sarah Mitchell, the waitress who'd screamed at this man 3 days ago, who'd called him heartless, cruel, a monster in front of everyone, was now running straight at him. Her coffee pot slipped from her shaking hands and crashed to the floor. Glass exploded across the tile like a bomb. Hot coffee splashed her legs. She didn't even feel it, because Sarah knew something nobody else in that fancy Portland restaurant knew. She had 30 seconds. Maybe less. 30 seconds before James Whitmore's brain started dying from lack of oxygen. 30 seconds before the billionaire who tried to destroy her life, who'd gotten her fired, who'd spread lies about her, who'd made her children go hungry, would be dead on her floor. Her worn sneakers pounded across the restaurant. Her heart hammered so hard against her ribs she thought it might burst. Her hands were trembling. Her breath came in short gasps. And in her head, one thought screamed louder than the gasps, louder than the breaking glass, louder than everything. Not again. Please, God, not again. I won't watch another person die. Not like David. Not again. She dropped hard to her knees in the broken glass. Shards bit into her skin through her thin uniform. Coffee soaked through the fabric. The same faded burgundy she'd worn for 17 years, washing it by hand every night because she couldn't afford a new one. The same uniform she'd been wearing when Whitmore humiliated her, when he called her worthless, when he told her people like her would never amount to anything, when he laughed while she cried. Now his life was in her hands. Sarah's fingers found his throat, searching desperately for a pulse. Nothing. His skin was cold. His lips were turning darker purple. The clock was ticking in her head. 25 seconds. 24, 23. His chest wasn't moving. He wasn't breathing. Behind her someone shouted, "Don't touch him. You'll get sued." Another voice. "She's going to kill him." Sarah ignored them all. Her hands moved to his chest. She could feel his heart under her palms, flutter weak, irregular, failing. She'd learned this in a free CPR class 4 years ago, the one she took 3 months after David died, sobbing in a community center basement while a volunteer taught her how to save a life. The life she couldn't save when it mattered most. Now she had one chance, one moment, one decision, and she had absolutely no idea that saving James Whitmore would cost her everything. Her job, her home, her children's safety, her entire future. But in that moment, with his dying face inches from hers, Sarah Mitchell made the only choice she knew how to make. The right one. Sarah's knees hit the floor beside Whitmore's convulsing body. Her hands were already moving, turning him onto his side, fingers checking his mouth for obstructions. Nothing. His airway was clear, but he wasn't breathing right. Shallow, rattling gasps that sounded like death. Around her, the wealthy breakfast crowd stood frozen like statues. A woman in a Chanel suit held her phone up, recording. A man in expensive loafers backed away slowly, muttering into his Bluetooth. 3 people near the window had their cameras out, filming Sarah's every move. Not one of them stepped forward to help. Sarah's mind raced through the symptoms she'd learned at that free CPR class at St. John's Community Center 4 years ago. The one she'd forced herself to attend 3 months after David's funeral. She'd sat in that basement room sobbing while a volunteer firefighter taught compression rhythms, thinking, what if something happens to Marcus or Emma and I freeze like I did with David? What if I can't save them? Whitmore's pulse was there, erratic, weak, like a dying bird fluttering against her fingertips. His breathing was too shallow. His brain wasn't getting enough oxygen. She positioned her hands on his chest, one palm flat, the other locked on top. fingers interlaced, just like they taught her. She started compressions, counting aloud to keep rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sarah. Frank Martinez's voice cut through her focus. Wait for the paramedics. You can't. 5, 6, 7, 8. Sarah didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Every compression pushed blood to Whitmore's brain. Bottom seconds. Kept him alive. 9, 10, 11, 12. Someone shouted. Has anyone called 911? 13, 14, 15, 16. A woman's voice shrill with panic. Yes, they're coming. 17, 18, 19, 20. Then hands grabbed her shoulder, hard, yanking her backward. Sarah's spine twisted painfully. A well-dressed woman in pearls and a cashmere sweater was pulling at her. Get away from him. You're hurting him. Stop. 21, 22. Sarah shrugged her off, repositioned, kept going. Pain exploded across her back where the woman had grabbed her, but she pushed through it. 23, 24, 25. More hands now. A man in a business suit grabbed her arm. That's disgusting. She's touching him. 26, 27. Someone call 911. Sarah screamed, even though someone already had. She didn't know what else to say. More hands pulled at her shoulders, her arms. She's assaulting him. Another voice from a crowd. Get her off. Sarah's 14-year-old CPR training was now a battle against 3 wealthy strangers who were more afraid of a waitress touching a billionaire than they were of watching a man die. Stop it. Let her work. Frank pushed through the crowd, trying to pull the attackers off Sarah. His voice cracked with desperation. She knows what she's doing. A woman in designer clothes, silk blouse, diamond earrings that could pay Sarah's rent for 6 months, stepped forward with her phone out. I'm an attorney. If anything happens to Mr. Whitmore because of her, I will personally sue this establishment into oblivion. Sarah barely heard them. Her world had narrowed to the count. 28, 29, 30. Someone's fist connected with her ribs. The pain was instant and sharp, stealing her breath. She gasped but didn't stop. Couldn't stop. 31, 32, 33. He's going to die if you don't let me work. Sarah screamed at them, her voice raw. Tears streamed down her face, from pain, from fear, from rage at these people who cared more about optics than a human life. 34, 35, 36. Then Whitmore's body jerked. His back arched. He gasped a horrible, wet, rattling sound, and his eyes flew open. His chest heaved as he coughed violently, his whole body shaking. Color began creeping back into his face, replacing that terrible purple blue. Sarah's hand stayed on his chest, steadying him as he convulsed with coughs. You're okay. You're breathing. You're okay. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting louder. Closer. The cafe door burst open at exactly 7:54 a.m. Sarah would remember that detail forever. The clock on the wall reading 7:54 when 2 paramedics rushed in with their equipment. Step back, please. The first paramedic, a woman with kind eyes, immediately checked Whitmore's vitals. The second paramedic looked at Sarah, took in her coffee-stained uniform, her tear-streaked face, the way she was cradling her injured ribs. You did this, he asked, gesturing to Whitmore, who was now breathing steadily, though still disoriented. Sarah nodded, unable to speak. You saved his life. The paramedic's voice was firm, grateful. Quick thinking. Perfect compression rhythm. How long were you going? Maybe 2 minutes? I don't know. You bought him the time he needed. The female paramedic stabilized Whitmore's neck, preparing to move him. This man would be dead without you. But the cafe crowd was already telling a different story. Phones were still out. Videos were already uploading. And the whispers had started. She attacked him. Did you see how rough she was? I heard she has a grudge against him. Someone should call the police. A man in an expensive 3-piece suit stepped forward. Richard Thornton, 48, with silver hair and cold eyes that matched his cold voice. His face twisted with disgust as he looked at Sarah kneeling on the floor, covered in coffee and broken glass. "What's your name?" he demanded. Not a question, an accusation. Sarah looked up at him, confused, exhausted, in pain. Sarah Mitchell. Thornton's eyes narrowed to slits. Recognition flashed across his face. "You're the waitress who verbally assaulted Mr. Whitmore on Tuesday morning." He screamed at him in front of customers. Sarah's stomach dropped. "Aye, that was different. You need to leave immediately." Thornton's voice cut through the room like a knife. "Do not return to this establishment. Do not contact Mr. Whitmore. Our legal team will be in touch." The paramedics looked at each other, confused. The woman spoke up, her voice firm. "Sir, she just saved. This is a company matter." Thornton's tone left no room for argument. He turned his back on Sarah, following the paramedics as they wheeled Whitmore toward the ambulance. Sarah knelt there on the glass-strewn floor, shaking, bleeding, watching as the man whose life she just saved disappeared through the door without a single word of thanks. Not a single thank you. The cafe emptied in minutes. Customers left cash on tables and hurried out, avoiding Sarah's eyes like she was diseased. The woman in pearls stepped carefully around the broken glass, whispering urgently into her phone. The man in the business suit straightened his tie and walked out without paying his bill. Sarah stayed on her knees, staring at the empty space where Whitmore had been. Her hands were still shaking. Her ribs screamed with every breath. Coffee had dried sticky on her legs. Frank Martinez appeared beside her, his weathered face twisted with pain. "Sarah, I'm so sorry. I have to suspend you, pending investigation." Sarah's head snapped up. Her voice came out broken, barely a whisper. "Investigation of what?" "Frank, I saved his life." Frank wouldn't meet her eyes. He stared at the floor, at the broken coffee pot, anywhere but at her face. "Thornton called my main supplier while the paramedics were still here. They supply all my produce, my meat, my dairy. They're threatening to cut our contract completely if—" He trailed off. "I have a family too, Sarah. I can't lose this place." The words hit her like physical blows, each one landing in her chest, knocking the air from her lungs. Sarah's hands fumbled with her apron ties. They were slick with coffee and shaking so badly she could barely undo the knot. She finally yanked the apron over her head and handed it to Frank. It felt like handing over a piece of herself. Outside, through the cafe window, she could see downtown Portland's skyline. And there, on the side of a glass building 3 blocks away, was a massive billboard. James Whitmore's face, confident, smiling, powerful. Below it, in bold letters, Meridian Industries. Integrity, innovation, people first. Sarah stared at those words. People first. The irony tasted like bile in her throat, like coffee grounds and broken glass and blood. If you're following Sarah's story, hit subscribe right now, because what happens next will shock you. The billionaire she saved, he's about to destroy everything she has left. And the truth behind why he collapsed that morning? Nobody saw it coming. This is just the beginning. The bus smelled like wet coats and diesel fuel. Sarah sat in the back, pressed against the cold window, counting the crumpled bills in her purse. $47. Tips from a morning shift she'd never finish. Every breath sent sharp pain through her ribs where that man had struck her. Her shoulder throbbed where the woman in pearls had grabbed her. Sarah pressed her forehead against the rain-streaked glass and watched Portland's city lights blur into watercolor smears of gold and red. The bus lurched forward. Sarah replayed the moment again, and again, and again. Whitmore's face turning blue, the foam at his lips, her hands on his chest. 1, 2, 3, 4. The people pulling at her, yanking her back while she fought to save him. Thornton's cold eyes, his voice. "You need to leave immediately." She'd saved a man's life and been treated like a criminal. The bus stopped on Lombard Street in St. John's. Sarah stepped off into the October drizzle, pulling her thin jacket tighter. 3 blocks to her rental, a small house she shared with Marcus and Emma, peeling white paint, sagging front stairs, a porch light that flickered and died 2 weeks ago that she couldn't afford to fix. She climbed the stairs slowly, each step sending fresh waves of pain through her ribs. The door opened before she could reach for her keys. Marcus stood there, 14 years old, tall like his father, with David's dark eyes that saw too much. "Mom, you're home early." His face shifted from surprise to concern. "Are you okay?" Sarah forced a smile past the bruise she could feel forming on her shoulder. Her face felt stiff, like a mask. "Long day, honey. Where's Emma?" "Dance practice at Ashley's house. Mrs. Chen's dropping her off at 6. Marcus stepped aside to let her in. The heater sputtered in the corner, struggling against the October cold. On their cramped kitchen table, Sarah saw reheated mac and cheese. Marcus had made dinner, and his algebra homework spread out beside it. Her throat tightened. 14 years old and already playing parent, because she worked 2 jobs and still couldn't make ends meet. Marcus touched her arm gently. "Mom, you're shaking." Sarah realized he was right. Her whole body was trembling. She reached back, fingers finding the bruise forming on her back, then touched her ribs and winced. "I'm fine," she lied. "Just tired." Marcus didn't believe her. She could see it in his eyes. But he was 14, and 14-year-olds wanted to believe their mothers when they said everything was okay. Sarah sank into their worn couch, secondhand, one cushion sunken from years of use. She stared at the water stain on the ceiling and didn't know that this moment, saving a billionaire's life, was about to destroy absolutely everything she'd built since David died 4 years ago. She didn't know that by tomorrow morning, she'd have no job. By tomorrow afternoon, she'd have no future. By next week, she'd have nothing left to lose. Wednesday morning, 4:45 a.m. Sarah's alarm screamed in the darkness. She dressed in the same burgundy uniform, hand-washed in the sink the night before, still slightly damp. Packed the same lunch she'd packed for 17 years. Peanut butter sandwich, apple, thermos of coffee. Her ribs screamed with every movement. The bruises had bloomed overnight into deep purple flowers across her back and shoulder. Marcus appeared in the kitchen doorway, sleep-rumpled, watching her move like an old woman. "Mom, maybe you should rest today. You can barely move." "Can't afford to, baby." Sarah kissed his forehead. "Go back to bed." She caught the 5:15 a.m. bus, arrived at the Riverside Cafe at 5:30 a.m. for opening prep, like she had every Wednesday for 17 years. Frank Martinez stood at the back door, waiting. Sarah's stomach dropped before he even spoke. She knew. Somehow she already knew. "Sarah." Frank's voice cracked. "I can't let you in." "What?" The word came out small, scared. Frank held out a manila envelope. His hands were shaking. He wouldn't meet her eyes, stared at the ground, at the dumpster, at the rain-soaked alley. Anywhere but her face. Sarah took the envelope. Her fingers felt numb. She opened it right there in the rain. Termination of employment. Effective immediately. Reason: inappropriate physical conduct involving senior personnel. The words blurred. Sarah read them again and again. Her hand started shaking so badly the letter rattled. "Frank, this is insane." Her voice broke. "I saved his life. You were there. You saw." "I know." Frank finally looked at her, and his eyes were red. "Sarah, I know. But the security footage from Tuesday morning, the confrontation where you yelled at Whitmore, someone sent it to 3 of our suppliers. All 3 are Meridian partners. They're threatening to cut contracts. I'm losing 40% of my business. I can't." He stopped, swallowed hard. "I have a family too." Sarah stared at him, at this man who'd hired her 17 years ago when she was 25 and newly married and needed a job desperately, who'd let her bring Marcus to work when he was a baby, who'd given her time off when David died, who'd been like family. And now he was firing her. She saw her reflection in the cafe window, 42 years old, widowed, now unemployed. Hair pulled back in the same ponytail she'd worn for 2 decades. Eyes hollow with exhaustion. The reflection of a woman who'd done everything right and still lost. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Text from Linda, her older sister. People at church are asking about some incident? What happened? Sarah's phone buzzed again. Another text. Screenshot from a local Facebook group. St. John's Community Watch. The image was grainy cafe security footage, distorted and dark. Sarah's hands on Whitmore's chest. But the angle made it look wrong. Violent. The caption read, "Waitress attacks billionaire at breakfast spot. Anyone know her?" Sarah's thumb scrolled down to the comments. Each one was a knife. Sewer. Trash. Attention seeker trying to get money. I heard she stalked him. This was planned. Someone should call the police. Her stomach dropped so fast she thought she might vomit right there in the alley. Another text. Another screenshot. Twitter now. The same distorted image spreading. Thousands of views. Hundreds of comments. Hashtag Portland Waitress was trending. Sarah looked up at Frank. "Did you see this?" He nodded miserably. "It went up last night." "I'm so sorry, Sarah. I tried to explain what really happened. But nobody's listening." Sarah walked away. Didn't say goodbye. Couldn't. Her legs moved automatically through St. John's. Past houses where she knew her neighbors. Past the elementary school where Emma went. Past Murphy's Corner Store where she bought milk. Past Portland Grocery and more, where she worked evening shifts. Her manager, Tom Rodriguez, was unlocking the front door. He saw Sarah and waved her over, his expression grave. "Sarah, I need to talk to you." She already knew, but she walked over anyway, like a prisoner walking to execution. Corporate called last night. Tom couldn't look at her either. Why could nobody look at her? "They received a complaint about you." No details, just they said to terminate you effective immediately. "I'm so sorry." 2 jobs, both gone, within 18 hours. Sarah stood on the sidewalk as the morning rain soaked through her uniform. She stared at the grocery store where she'd worked for 6 years, at the Riverside Cafe 3 blocks away where she'd worked for 17. 23 years of her life. Her phone kept buzzing. Text after text. Facebook notifications. Twitter mentions. The video spreading like a virus. Her face grainy and distorted, but recognizable. On screens across Portland. Waitress attacks billionaire. Assault caught on camera. Gold digger stages rescue. Sarah turned her phone off. Shoved it in her pocket. Started walking home through the rain. She passed a bus stop shelter. Inside, a man in a business suit read the news on his tablet. Sarah saw her own face on a screen. The headline. Local waitress under investigation after altercation with tech CEO. The man looked up, looked at Sarah. Recognition flashed across his face. He stood quickly and moved away, like she was dangerous. Sarah kept walking. By the time she got home, she was soaked through. Her uniform clung to her skin. Her shoes squelched with every step. She climbed the sagging stairs, opened her door, and collapsed on the couch. Her phone, still off, sat in her pocket like a bomb. She didn't turn it on. Couldn't face what was waiting there. She didn't know it yet, but the video had been viewed 47,000 times. By morning, it would be 200,000. By the end of the week, over 1 million people would watch grainy footage of Sarah Mitchell attacking a billionaire. And every single one of them would believe she was the villain. 10 days. Sarah applied to 43 jobs. Murphy's laundromat on Lombard. The owner, Mrs. Chun, seemed interested at first, smiled, asked about her experience, said she'd call back. 2 days later. The position has been filled. Riverside Diner on MLK Boulevard. The manager, Tom Chun, no relation to Mrs. Chun, actually pulled her aside after the interview. Spoke quietly, like they were sharing secrets. Listen off the record? Tom glanced around the empty diner. I got a call about you yesterday. Some corporate guy, didn't give his name, said there's legal issues pending. Liability concerns. He said if I hired you, I'd be assuming significant risk. Tom's face twisted with genuine sympathy. Sarah, I've heard about that situation at the cafe. What really happened, but I can't afford that kind of attention here. I'm barely keeping the lights on as it is. Portland Cleaning Solutions. No. Safeway on Killingsworth. No. Target. No. Fred Meyer. No. The Vietnamese restaurant on Lombard. No. The coffee shop on St. John's Avenue. No. Every single one, same pattern. Initial interest. Then suddenly, mysteriously, the position was filled. Or they decided not to hire after all. Or they'd call back, they never called back. Sarah walked home from her 7th rejection on a cold Thursday afternoon, head down, hands shoved in her jacket pockets. Yo, that's her. Sarah's head snapped up. 3 teenagers on the corner, couldn't be older than 16, were pointing at her. One held up his phone, recording. That's the crazy waitress who attacked that rich guy. The kid was laughing, actually laughing. Yo, everyone look, she's right here on Lombard. They crowded closer, phones out, filming her face. Are you famous now? Did you get paid to do it? Are you going to jail? Sarah hurried past, heart pounding. Behind her, their laughter echoed down the block. At home, yellow eviction notice taped to the door. Final warning. Rent 3 weeks overdue. Vacate within 7 days or face legal action. Inside, electricity shut-off warning in the mailbox. Bright red letters. Disconnect scheduled for November 8th. Sarah sat at the kitchen table and counted her remaining cash. $183. That's all she had left in the world. Marcus's school pictures were due next week. $45 she didn't have. Emma's dance recital costume. They'd measured her 3 weeks ago, before everything fell apart. $67. Groceries. Maybe $40 if she stretched it. Marcus's inhaler refill. $35. The numbers spiraled in her head, adding up to impossible. She couldn't pay rent, couldn't pay electricity, couldn't feed her children properly. Marcus had started rationing food, she noticed, giving Emma bigger portions, telling Sarah he wasn't hungry, 14 years old and already starving himself so his sister could eat. Her phone rang. Linda. Sarah stared at it, didn't answer. It rang again. Linda again. Then a text. Sarah, people are saying terrible things. Pastor Williams asked me about it at Bible study. Everyone's talking. What really happened? Please call me back. Sarah turned her phone off. She couldn't explain anymore. Couldn't defend herself. Couldn't tell the story one more time just to watch people's eyes fill with doubt. The truth didn't matter. The video mattered. The narrative mattered. And the narrative said Sarah Mitchell was a violent, unstable woman who'd attacked a billionaire for attention. That's what everyone believed. And believing was enough to destroy her. 3 a.m. Sarah lay awake in the darkness, staring at the water-stained ceiling. She'd been lying here for hours, unable to sleep, replaying the rescue frame by frame. Whitmore's blue face, the foam at his lips, her hands on his chest, 1, 2, 3, 4. The woman in pearls yanking her back, the blow to her ribs, Thornton's cold eyes. You need to leave immediately. Sarah reached back, fingers finding the bruise on her back. 3 weeks later, and it was still there, deep purple fading to sickly yellow-green, spreading across her shoulder blade like spilled ink. She pressed on it gently, wincing. The pain was almost comforting, proof that it had really happened, that she hadn't imagined it. Mom! Sarah's eyes shot open. Marcus stood in the doorway, backlit by the hallway light. You okay? His voice was soft, careful. I'm fine, baby. Go back to bed. You've lost weight. Not a question. An observation. You're not eating. I'm fine. Marcus didn't move. You keep saying that. But you're not fine, Mom. I can see you're not fine. Sarah closed her eyes. Please, Marcus. Just go back to bed. She heard him leave, heard his bedroom door click shut, and she lay there in the darkness, touching her bruise, unable to sleep. Her phone sat on the nightstand. She'd turned it back on 2 days ago, telling herself she needed to check for job responses. The messages flooded in immediately, hundreds of them, some supportive. Stay strong, Sarah. We know the truth. Most weren't. You deserve this. Gold digger got what she deserved. Attention whore. Hope your kids get taken away. That last one made her physically sick. She'd blocked the number. Blocked 50 more. 100 more. It didn't matter. New ones appeared immediately. She turned the phone off again. Shoved it in the drawer. Tried to pretend it didn't exist. But the damage was done. The messages lived in her head now, playing on repeat. You deserve this. Attention whore. Hope your kids get taken away. Emma's voice from the living room. Mommy, can we get pizza tonight? Sarah forced herself to sit up, forced brightness into her voice. Not tonight, sweetie. We're saving money. But we haven't had pizza in forever. Emma appeared in the doorway, 9 years old, wearing a dress 2 sizes too small because Sarah couldn't afford new clothes. And you canceled my dance class. And we can't go to Ashley's birthday party because you said the gift was too expensive. Each word was a knife. We're just saving money right now, Sarah repeated. The lie tasted like ash. Emma stared at her with eyes too old for 9 years. You look like you've seen a ghost, Mommy. Sarah tried to smile. Failed. I'm fine. Just tired. You always say you're fine. Emma's voice was small, scared. But you're not. I know you're not. The walls were closing in. Their small apartment, once cozy, once home, now felt like a prison. The water stain on the ceiling looked like a face. The heater sputtered its death rattle. The refrigerator hummed with nothing inside. Sarah waited until Emma went to bed. Waited until Marcus's light turned off. Then she lay down on the thin mattress she shared with Emma. Marcus had the only bedroom, and stared at that water stain and let everything wash over her. Saving someone should have been a good thing. In this city, in this world, doing the right thing had erased her entire life. She'd saved a man from dying and been treated like a criminal. Lost both her jobs. Lost her reputation. Was losing her home. Watching her children go hungry. For doing the right thing. For saving a life. Sarah buried her face in the pillow and cried. Deep, silent sobs that shook her whole body. She pressed the pillow over her mouth so the children wouldn't hear. Cried until her throat was raw and her eyes were swollen and she had no tears left. And when she was done crying, she lay there in the darkness and thought about David. For years since the accident. For years since the construction site scaffolding collapsed. For years since she'd gotten the phone call that destroyed her world the first time. She'd survived that, rebuilt, found a way forward for Marcus and Emma. She could survive this too. She had to, because her children were depending on her. Sarah touched the bruise on her back one more time, pressed hard enough to make it hurt. Then she closed her eyes and tried to sleep. She didn't know that in 3 days, she wouldn't be able to get out of bed. She didn't know that her body, pushed past its limits by stress, starvation, and exhaustion, was about to shut down completely. She didn't know that the man whose life she'd saved was looking for her. And she didn't know that everything was about to change. Week 3. Sarah stopped getting out of bed. It wasn't a choice. Her body simply refused. When Marcus shook her shoulder gently at 7 a.m., Mom, you need to eat something. She could barely open her eyes. The room spun. Her head felt like it was filled with cotton. Can't, she mumbled. Her voice sounded far away. Too tired. Mom, you're burning up. Marcus's hand on her forehead. You have a fever. Sarah tried to sit up, The room tilted violently. She collapsed back onto the mattress, breath coming in short gasps. I'm fine. Just need to rest. She wasn't fine. By afternoon, her temperature had hit 103 degrees Fahrenheit. Marcus stood over her with the thermometer, his face pale with fear. Mom, this is really bad. We need to take you to the hospital. We can't afford it, honey. The words came out slurred. Sarah's vision blurred at the edges. Just get me some water. Marcus brought water. Sarah couldn't keep it down. She vomited into the trash can beside the bed, her whole body shaking. Emma curled up next to her, crying softly. Mommy, please wake up. Please be okay. But Sarah wasn't okay. She drifted in and out of consciousness. In her delirium, the past and present blended together. David's face, the phone call. There's been an accident. Whitmore's blue face, the foam, the hands pulling her back. Thornton's voice. You need to leave immediately. Marcus's voice far away. Aunt Linda? Something's really wrong with Mom. She won't wake up. He's talking about Dad. She keeps saying his name. Sarah mumbled about injustice. About David. About Whitmore's blue face and Thornton's cold eyes and the woman in pearls yanking her back while a man died. I saved him, she whispered to the water stain on the ceiling. I saved him, and they destroyed me. I saved him. Outside, a black Mercedes S-Class pulled up to their building. Peeling white paint. Sagging metal staircase. Broken porch light. Graffiti on the side wall. Rich people suck. James Whitmore, 51, fully recovered from his collapse, stepped out wearing a $3,000 Tom Ford suit. His Italian leather shoes touched broken concrete. He looked up at the building and felt something crack inside his chest. This was where Sarah Mitchell lived. This was the home of the woman who'd saved his life. He'd been searching for her for 2 weeks, ever since he'd woken up in the hospital and asked what happened and learned the truth. Ever since he demanded to see the security footage and watched, horrified, as his own CFO assaulted Sarah while she performed CPR. Ever since he'd learned what Richard Thornton had done. Whitmore climbed the stairs slowly. Each step revealed more poverty. Broken windows patched with cardboard, doors with peeling paint, the smell of mildew and desperation, graffiti on the walls, a broken bicycle in the hallway, children's voices arguing in Spanish behind a thin door. He'd lived in Portland his entire life and never seen this neighborhood, never drove through St. John's, never stopped to wonder where people lived when they served his coffee or cleaned his office or worked for minimum wage. He reached apartment 2B. The number hung crooked on the door. He could hear voices inside, young voices frightened. Whitmore raised his hand and knocked. The door opened a crack. A teenage boy's face appeared, dark eyes, tall, thin, too thin, wearing a T-shirt with holes in it. Marcus. The boy's eyes went wide. You're the guy from the billboard. Whitmore's throat tightened. Up close, he could see the intelligence in this kid's eyes. Could see David Mitchell's features in his face. Sarah had shown him a photo once, back when they'd been strangers, back when Whitmore had been human enough to ask waitresses about their lives. Is your mother Sarah Mitchell? She's really sick. Marcus's voice cracked with fear. She won't wake up. Her fever's really high, and she keeps talking about things that don't make sense, and he stopped. Swallowed hard. Are you here to make it worse? The question hit Whitmore like a physical blow. No, he said quietly. I'm here to help. May I come in? Marcus stepped aside. Whitmore entered the apartment, and his horror was immediate. Empty cupboards with doors hanging open. Past due notices stacked on the counter. Electric, water, rent, all stamped final warning in red. A refrigerator that hummed empty. Thin mattress on the floor in the living room. No furniture except a sagging couch and a kitchen table with wobbly legs. A small face peered from a doorway. Emma, 9 years old, wearing a dress that had been washed so many times the color had faded to almost nothing. Whitmore approached the mattress where Sarah lay. Her face was flushed with fever, her breathing shallow and rapid. Her lips were cracked. Her hair was soaked with sweat. This woman had saved his life 3 weeks ago, and this was what he'd let happen to her. Whitmore knelt beside the mattress, gently touched Sarah's hand. Her skin was burning hot. She didn't wake, didn't respond. He pulled out his phone and dialed 911. Marcus stepped forward, panic in his voice. "We can't afford." "I'm paying," Whitmore said firmly, "for everything. Don't worry about it." He looked down at Sarah's unconscious face and whispered words only she could hear. "You saved my life. Now it's my turn to save yours." Outside, sirens began to wail, getting closer. Neighbors gathered on the stairs and doorways, watching the ambulance pull up, watching the expensive car, the man in the expensive suit, whispering, "That's Sarah Mitchell's place. What's happening? Is that James Whitmore? Why is he here?" The paramedics rushed up the stairs with their equipment. They moved quickly, efficiently, checking Sarah's vitals. One of them looked up at Whitmore. "How long has she been like this?" "I don't know." Whitmore looked at Marcus. 3 days, Marcus whispered. "Maybe 4. She just stopped waking up." The paramedics lifted Sarah onto the stretcher. Her head lolled to the side. Emma started crying, clutching Marcus's hand. Whitmore touched Marcus's shoulder. "Ride with me. Follow the ambulance. Both of you." In the Mercedes, Emma asked in a small voice, "Are you really the man from Billboard?" "Yes." "The one Mommy saved?" Whitmore's voice broke. "Yes." Emma was quiet for a moment. "Is she going to die like Daddy did?" Whitmore looked at this 9-year-old girl with her too small dress and her scared eyes and her question that made his heart stop. "No," he said, and meant it. "I promise you, I'm not going to let that happen." The next chapter will reveal how James Whitmore uncovers the conspiracy that destroyed Sarah Mitchell. And you won't believe how deep it goes. Subscribe right now to see the full truth exposed. What Whitmore discovers in the next 10 minutes will shock you. This is where everything changes. Emmanuel Hospital, Portland, 11:47 p.m. The medical team surrounded Sarah's bed like a pit crew at a race. Nurses checking vitals, doctors shouting orders, machines beeping urgent warnings. Sarah lay unconscious, and 4 in her arm pumping fluids into her dehydrated body. BP is 90/60. Heart rate 118. Temperature 103.2. She's severely malnourished. Look at these levels. Dr. Patricia Chin, the attending physician, studied Sarah's chart with a frown that deepened with every line she read. Severe exhaustion, dehydration, malnutrition. Her immune system didn't just weaken. It crashed completely under prolonged stress. She looked up at Whitmore, who stood against the wall, arms crossed, face pale. "How long has she been like this?" "I don't know." Whitmore's voice was hollow. Her son said 3 or 4 days. Maybe longer. Dr. Chin shook her head. "This didn't happen in 4 days. This is weeks of systematic neglect. When did she last eat a proper meal? When did she last sleep through the night?" She paused. "What happened to this woman?" Whitmore couldn't answer. His throat was too tight. "Sir, you need to leave," a nurse said gently. "Family only. We need space to work." "I'm staying." "Hospital protocol." "I'm staying." Whitmore's voice was steel. "She doesn't have family here, except her children." "I'm staying." Dr. Chin studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Fine, but stay out of the way." Whitmore pulled a chair into the corner of Sarah's room and sat. He didn't leave, not when they stabilized her vitals, not when they moved her to a private room at 2 a.m., not when the night shift changed to day shift and nurses gave him curious looks. He sat beside her bed through the night, laptop open, reviewing files his assistant had gathered. Sarah Mitchell employment record. The Riverside Cafe. Hired. June 2008. Position, server. Performance reviews. Exemplary every single year. Customer complaints, 0. Disciplinary actions, 0. Commendations, 14. Termination date, October 16, 2025. Reason, inappropriate physical conduct involving senior personnel. Whitmore's jaw clenched reading that last line. He scrolled to the next file. Eviction notices. 3 of them, stacked like judgments. Final warnings stamped in red. Bank statements. The numbers told a story more devastating than words ever could. Direct deposit from the Riverside Cafe, $1, $8.47 every 2 weeks. Direct deposit from Portland Grocery and More, $8.92 every 2 weeks. Rent, $1,650. Utilities, $230. Groceries, $400 to $500. Medical expenses for Marcus's inhaler, $35 monthly. For years ago, a life insurance payout, $15,000. Gone within 3 months. Funeral costs, medical bills from David's final weeks in the hospital, back rent, overdue credit cards. Sarah Mitchell had been living paycheck to paycheck for 4 years. One emergency away from disaster. And Whitmore's company had been that emergency. His guilt was crushing, physical. He'd built a $2 billion empire on cloud computing infrastructure. He owned a penthouse, vacation homes, cars worth more than Sarah's annual salary. He'd revolutionized data storage, changed industries, made fortunes, but he'd never seen the human cost of his own arrogance. A soft knock. Whitmore looked up. A social worker stood in the doorway, middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a clipboard. Mr. Whitmore? I'm Monica Torres. I need to discuss the children. Whitmore stood. Marcus and Emma. They're sleeping in the family waiting room, but they can't stay there indefinitely. They need stable housing, food, school arrangements. She consulted her clipboard. There's no other family in the area. The father is deceased. The mother's sister lives in Eugene but works full-time and has 3 children of her own. We may need to contact Child Protective Services. No. Whitmore's voice was sharp. That won't be necessary. I've already made arrangements. Monica's eyebrows rose. What kind of arrangements? I've booked them a suite at the Kimpton Hotel in the Pearl District. 2 bedrooms. All expenses covered. Room service. Anything they need. They'll stay there until their mother recovers. Mr. Whitmore, that's generous, but... No buts. They're not going into the system. Their mother just saved my life. This is the absolute least I can do. He pulled out his phone, showed her the confirmation email. It's done. The reservation is under my name. The hotel knows they're coming. Monica studied him for a long moment. Why are you doing this? Whitmore looked through the doorway at Sarah's sleeping form, for in her arm, monitor beeping steadily, face still too pale. Because 3 weeks ago I collapsed in a restaurant. That woman ran toward me when everyone else froze. She saved my life while my own executives assaulted her. And then my CFO destroyed her life systematically, deliberately, while I was unconscious in a hospital room. His voice broke. So no, those children are not going into foster care. Not while I'm alive to prevent it. Monica nodded slowly. Okay, I'll make a note in the file. After she left, Whitmore returned to his chair beside Sarah's bed. He sat there as dawn broke over Portland. Sat there as Sarah's breathing steadied. Sat there as the guilt inside him hardened into something else. Determination. He was going to fix this. All of it. And someone was going to pay for what they'd done to Sarah Mitchell. 6:30 a.m. Whitmore's phone buzzed with an email notification from Derek Walsh, head of security, Meridian Industries. Subject, security footage, October 15th, 2025. Attachment, Riverside Cafe _10-15-25 full footage.mp4. Whitmore opened the video on his laptop. The timestamp glowed in the corner. 7:48 a.m. The Riverside Cafe. Morning rush. Whitmore saw himself sitting at a corner table. Expensive suit, coffee cup in hand. Looking at his phone, not noticing anyone around him. 7:48 and 14 seconds a.m. Whitmore's body jerked. His face hit the plate. Hard. Whitmore watched himself convulse. Watched his own face turn blue. Watched foam bubble from his mouth. The camera angle showed the whole restaurant. 20 people. Maybe more. Everyone frozen. Phones out. Nobody moving. 7:48 and 47 seconds a.m. Sarah Mitchell appeared at the edge of the frame, running. Coffee pot slipping from her hands, shattering on the floor. She didn't even slow down. 7:49 and 3 seconds a.m. Sarah reached him, dropped to her knees. Her hands moved immediately, checking his mouth, checking his pulse. No hesitation. Pure instinct. 7:49 and 28 seconds a.m. Sarah positioned her hands on his chest. Started compressions. Her lips were moving. Counting. Whitmore realized she was counting aloud to keep rhythm. 7:50 and 45 seconds a.m. A woman entered the frame. Designer clothes. Pearl necklace. Barbara Kent. Meridian VP of Operations. Whitmore's hands tightened on the laptop. 7:51 and 2 seconds a.m. Barbara grabbed Sarah's shoulder. Yanked hard. Sarah's body twisted, her face contorting with pain, but she didn't stop the compressions. 7:51 and 18 seconds a.m. A man in a business suit joined Barbara. Whitmore recognized him immediately. Richard Thornton, his CFO. 7:51 and 29 seconds a.m. Thornton struck Sarah. His fist connected with her shoulder. The blow was clear, unmistakable, captured in perfect detail by the cafe's security camera. Sarah's face showed pain. Her body jerked. But her hands never left Whitmore's chest. 7:51 and 34 seconds a.m. More people grabbing her, pulling her, Sarah screaming something. The footage had no audio, but Whitmore could read her lips. Someone call 911. 7:52 and 41 seconds a.m. Sarah still doing compressions, still fighting, still saving his life while being assaulted by 3 people. 7:54 and 3 seconds a.m. Paramedics burst through the door. 7:54 and 17 seconds a.m. Whitmore's chest heaved. His eyes opened, color returning to his face. 7:54 and 45 seconds a.m. Thornton stepped forward, his mouth moving, pointing at Sarah. The paramedics looking confused. Sarah's face, exhausted in pain, bewildered. 7:55 and 32 seconds a.m. Whitmore loaded onto a stretcher. Sarah still kneeling on the floor, surrounded by broken glass, covered in coffee. 7:56 and 4 seconds a.m. Thornton's mouth moving again, pointing at the door. Sarah standing slowly, removing her apron with shaking hands. Whitmore hit pause. His hands were shaking. His vision blurred with tears he refused to let fall. The footage was unambiguous, crystal clear. Sarah had saved his life. His own executives had assaulted her while she worked, and then they destroyed her for it. He closed the video and opened his email archives. October 15th, 10:47 a.m. From Richard Thornton to Jennifer Hayes, HR Director. Subject: immediate termination required. Jennifer: terminate Sarah Mitchell, waitress at the Riverside Cafe. Effective immediately. Reason: inappropriate physical conduct involving senior personnel James Whitmore. Do not discuss this termination with Mr. Whitmore or anyone else. Legal will handle any questions. This is time sensitive. Execute today. RT. October 15th, 11:15 a.m. From Richard Thornton to David Park, Meridian Procurement. Subject: supplier review urgent. David: Flag all contracts with suppliers servicing the Riverside Cafe on N.W. Everett St. Prepare immediate termination notices if they continue employing incident-involved staff. We cannot be associated with establishments that permit staff to assault executives. Keep this confidential. RT. October 15th, 2:34 p.m. From Richard Thornton to multiple Meridian partners. Subject: security incident. Attached is security footage from this morning's incident involving Mr. Whitmore. The individual in question has a history of aggressive behavior toward executives. Sharing for your awareness in case she seeks employment within your organizations. RT. Whitmore scrolled through email after email. The paper trail was damning, systematic, deliberate. Thornton had orchestrated Sarah's destruction within hours, using Meridian's corporate power like a weapon. Whitmore picked up his phone, called his personal attorney, Michael Chun, at 7 a.m. Michael, I need you to review footage and emails I'm sending you right now. Wrongful termination, defamation, assault, multiple charges. What am I looking at? Silence on the other end as Michael reviewed the files in real time. Then, Jesus Christ, James. What am I looking at? Whitmore repeated. Legally, you're looking at massive liability. Class action lawsuit territory. 7, maybe 8 figures in damages. Your CFO committed assault on camera, then used company resources to orchestrate retaliation. This is textbook wrongful termination, defamation conspiracy. Michael paused. But James, morally, this is unconscionable. This woman saved your life and your company destroyed her. How did you not know? I was unconscious for 3 days. When I woke up, nobody told me. Whitmore's voice was ice. But I know now, and I'm fixing it. Today. What do you need from me? Everything. Full legal protection for Sarah Mitchell. Lawsuits against Thornton and Kent. Public statement drafted. I want this woman compensated for every single thing my company took from her. Consider done. James, one more thing. What? You're doing the right thing. Finally, Whitmore hung up and looked at Sarah's sleeping form in the hospital bed. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. Then he made another call. This one to Richard Thornton. Richard, my office. 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. Don't be late. 6 a.m. Meridian Industries, 47th floor, executive suite. Richard Thornton entered Whitmore's office with his usual confidence. Tailored suit, expensive watch, leather briefcase. 12 years as CFO had given him a sense of invincibility. That confidence died the moment he saw the frozen image on Whitmore's screen. Security footage, October 15th. Timestamp, 7:51 and 29 seconds a.m. Thornton's fist connecting with Sarah's shoulder. His face drained of color. James, I can explain. Sit. Whitmore's voice was quiet, deadly. Thornton sat. Whitmore played the footage without sound. Let Thornton watch himself assault a woman who was saving a man's life. Watched Thornton's face grow paler with each passing second. When the footage ended, Whitmore opened the email chain. Play that too. Let Thornton read his own words demanding Sarah's termination, orchestrating her systematic destruction. Richard, Whitmore said softly, explain this. Thornton's mouth opened and closed. His hands gripped the armrests. James, it was about optics, liability, protecting the brand. She saved my life. The woman verbally attacked you 3 days prior in front of customers. Because I was an entitled asshole. Whitmore leaned forward, which this footage also shows, doesn't it? Me treating wait staff like garbage. Me dismissing her concerns. Me being exactly the kind of person who deserves to be called out. She had no right. She had every right. And when I collapsed, when everyone else stood there filming with their phones, she ran toward me. She saved my life while you, my CFO, my trusted executive, assaulted her. Whitmore's voice didn't rise. Didn't need to. Then you used company resources to destroy her. Systematically. Deliberately. Thornton's voice cracked. I was protecting you. You were protecting your ego. Whitmore slid termination papers across his mahogany desk. You're fired, effective immediately. Security will escort you out. Expect legal action for assault, wrongful termination, defamation, and conspiracy. James, please. Thornton's composure shattered completely. I've been with you for 12 years. I helped build this company. You can't. I can, and I am. Whitmore stood. In 12 years, you learned nothing about integrity, nothing about humanity. You learned how to use power as a weapon, and that's exactly what I taught you. His voice broke. So we're both guilty, but only one of us is getting a chance to make it right. James, get out. Security appeared in the doorway. Two large men in suits. They escorted Thornton out past his office, past colleagues who averted their eyes, past the elevator bank where he'd entered confidently 1,000 times. Richard Thornton left Meridian Industries with nothing but his briefcase and his shame. Whitmore returned to his desk and called his PR team. Draft a public statement. I want full truth. Release the unedited security footage with medical expert commentary explaining CPR procedure. We apologize publicly. We announce Sarah Mitchell's complete vindication, and we announce systemic changes. He paused. Schedule a press conference for 2 p.m. today. Sir, that's very fast. Then work fast. This woman has been living in hell for 3 weeks because of my company. Every hour we delay is another hour of injustice. Make it happen. Whitmore hung up and looked out his window at Portland's skyline. Somewhere out there, Marcus and Emma Mitchell were waking up in a hotel suite, wondering if their mother would survive. Somewhere out there, Sarah Mitchell was fighting for her life in a hospital bed. And somewhere out there, the truth was about to explode. 2 p.m. Meridian Industries headquarters, main conference room. The press conference was packed. Every major Portland news outlet, national networks, reporters squeezed shoulder to shoulder, cameras rolling, microphones extended like weapons. James Whitmore stood behind podium. Behind him, a massive screen displayed a single image. Sarah Mitchell in her hospital bed, unconscious, for in her arm. The room went silent. 3 weeks ago, Whitmore began, his voice steady but thick with emotion. Sarah Mitchell saved my life. I collapsed during breakfast at the Riverside Cafe. I stopped breathing. My heart stopped beating. I was dying. He paused. Let that sink in. Sarah Mitchell, a waitress, a widow, a single mother of 2, ran toward me when everyone else froze. She performed CPR while being physically assaulted by members of my executive team. She saved my life despite being yanked, grabbed, struck. His voice cracked. She saved my life while people told her to stop, told her she was disgusting, told her she didn't belong there. The screen behind him changed. Security footage began playing. The room gasped collectively. Timestamp visible. Whitmore collapsing. Sarah running, her hands on his chest, counting compressions. Barbara Kent yanking her backward. Thornton striking her. Sarah persisting despite the assault. In return for saving my life, Whitmore continued, his voice hardening, my company destroyed hers. My CFO, Richard Thornton, terminated her employment within hours. He systematically contacted every business in her network, every potential employer, and ensured she couldn't find work. He spread false information. He weaponized my company's influence to punish a woman whose only crime was having the courage to save a dying man. The footage continued playing. Paramedics arriving. Whitmore regaining consciousness. Sarah kneeling in broken glass, exhausted, bleeding, dismissed. Sarah Mitchell lost both her jobs. She faced eviction. Her children went hungry. She nearly died from stress-induced medical collapse. Whitmore's hands gripped the podium. And I didn't know. I was unconscious for 3 days. When I woke up, nobody told me what happened. Nobody told me that the woman who saved me was being systematically destroyed. He paused the footage. A new image appeared. Dr. Ellen Torres, emergency medicine specialist, in her white coat. Her voice played over the speakers. What you witnessed in that footage is textbook CPR performed under assault. Ms. Mitchell's intervention prevented brain death. Her compression rate was perfect. Her persistence was heroic. Without her actions, Mr. Whitmore would have suffered permanent brain damage or death. She saved his life, unequivocally. The room erupted with questions. Mr. Whitmore, why the initial cover-up? There was no cover-up for me. I didn't know until 2 days ago when I learned what happened to Ms. Mitchell. My CFO acted independently and has been terminated effective immediately. He will face legal consequences for assault, wrongful termination, and defamation. What about Barbara Kent? Ms. Kent has been suspended pending investigation. She has issued a public apology. Where is Sarah Mitchell now? Emmanuel Hospital, recovering from severe exhaustion, dehydration, and malnutrition caused by the trauma my company inflicted. Whitmore's voice broke. She's alive. Her children are safe. And today we set the record straight. The screen changed again. Bold text. Meridian Industries statement. Sarah Mitchell is a hero. We failed her. We are making this right. Social media exploded before the press conference even ended. Twitter. #Justice for Sarah trending within minutes. Headlines shifting in real time. Hero waitress saves billionaire. Gets destroyed by his company. Billionaire CEO fires executives who assaulted life-saving waitress Sarah Mitchell. The woman everyone should know. Comments flooded every platform. This is what accountability looks like. Whitmore did the right thing. Finally, Sarah Mitchell is a hero. Period. That CFO deserves prison time. Richard Thornton's LinkedIn was flooded with condemnation. His inbox filled with messages from former colleagues severing ties. Job offers evaporated. His reputation, built over 12 years, destroyed in 2 hours. Barbara Kent issued a tearful public apology on camera. I failed in the worst way possible. I attacked a woman who was saving a life. I will never forgive myself. I'm deeply, profoundly sorry. But the comments underneath were merciless. Sorry doesn't feed Sarah's kids. He should be in jail. Actions have consequences. The narrative had flipped completely. Sarah Mitchell wasn't the villain anymore. She was a hero she'd always been. Sarah woke slowly, consciousness returning like fog lifting. White ceiling, beeping machines, the smell of antiseptic. Hospital. She tried to sit up. Pain lanced through her ribs. A gentle hand on her shoulder stopped her. Easy. Don't move too fast. Sarah turned her head. James Whitmore sat beside her bed, not in a suit, but in jeans and a sweater. He looked exhausted. His eyes were red. How long have you been here? Her voice was hoarse, cracked. 2 days. 2. Sarah tried to process this. Why? Because you saved my life. And because what happened to you is unconscionable. Whitmore leaned forward. Sarah, I owe you everything. My life. An apology that could never be enough. And restitution. Sarah was wary. She'd learned not to trust promises from wealthy men. I just want my jobs back. I'm offering you something better. Whitmore pulled out a folder, set it on her lap. Director of Employee Welfare and Ethics at Meridian Industries. 6-figure salary, $180,000 annually. Full benefits. Health insurance for you and your children. 401k matching. Stock options. And real power to create systemic change. Sarah stared at the contract like it was written in a foreign language. Then she laughed, bitter hollow. I'm a waitress with a GED. I'm not qualified to direct anything. You're the most qualified person I know." Whitmore's voice was intense. "You understand what it feels like to be invisible, exploited, discarded. You know what it's like to work 2 jobs and still not make ends meet. You know what it's like when corporations treat people like they're disposable." He paused. "That's the qualification that matters. Everything else can be learned." Sarah looked down at the contract. The numbers blurred. "This is guilt talking. In a month, you'll regret." "Mommy." Emma burst through the door, Marcus right behind her. Both children ran to Sarah's bed. Emma climbed up carefully, wrapping her arms around her mother. Marcus took her hand, his eyes wet with tears he was trying to hide. "You're awake," Marcus whispered. "You're okay." Emma pulled back, looking at Whitmore. "I told you she's a good person. The lady from the billboard." Sarah looked at her children, at their relieved faces, at Marcus's threadbare t-shirt and Emma's too small dress. Then she looked at Whitmore. "I want real power," she said quietly. "Not a token position, not a publicity stunt. If I do this, I want the authority to actually change things, to protect people." Whitmore met her eyes. "You'll have it, I promise." Sarah looked down at the contract again, at the number that would change everything. That would mean Marcus could have new clothes. That would mean Emma could return to dance class. That would mean they'd never face eviction again. She picked up the pen. "Okay," she said, "but we're doing this my way." Whitmore smiled, genuine warm. "I wouldn't have it any other way." 6 weeks later, Sarah Mitchell stood outside Meridian Industries headquarters at 8 a.m. on a Monday morning. The glass tower reflected the early sun, making it look like it was made of gold. She wore business casual, dark slacks, a white blouse, a blazer Marcus had helped her pick out at Nordstrom. She'd cried in the fitting room when she realized she could actually afford it. Her hair was down for once, not pulled back in a ponytail. She looked like a different person. She felt like a different person. Sarah walked through the front door, not the service entrance, not the back door, but the main entrance, through the lobby with its waterfall and modern art, past security who smiled and said, "Good morning, Ms. Mitchell," into the elevator, up to the 23rd floor. The doors opened to a floor of cubicles and offices. Former service staff, janitors, cafeteria workers, maintenance, stopped what they were doing, whispered, smiled, gave quiet nods of respect. Sarah walked past them, returned their smiles, and felt something tight in her chest loosen. Corner office, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Willamette River. The same river she'd watched from the bus window 6 weeks ago, counting her last $47. On the desk, a nameplate, Sarah Mitchell, Director of Employee Welfare and Ethics. Sarah touched it with trembling fingers. This was real. This was actually real. "Ready?" Whitmore stood in the doorway. He smiled. "Board meeting in 10 minutes. Your presentation." Sarah nodded, picked up her folder, followed him to the boardroom. 12 executives sat around a mahogany table. Some looked skeptical. Some looked curious. All of them looked at Sarah like they weren't sure what to make of her. Sarah didn't care. She opened her presentation and began. "I'm proposing a 10-point protection plan for all Meridian employees. Point 1, mandatory CPR and first aid training for every staff member. Point 2, whistleblower protections with guaranteed anonymity. Point 3, anonymous reporting hotline for workplace issues. Point 4, anti-retaliation clause in every employment contract. Point 5, emergency financial assistance fund for employees facing crisis, medical bills, eviction, family emergencies." She went through all 10 points, backed each one with data, with stories, with the lived experience of someone who'd been on the bottom looking up. When she finished, the room was silent. Then Whitmore spoke. "All in favor?" Every hand went up. "Motion passes." Sarah, implement immediately. After the meeting, Sarah returned to her office. stood at the window, looked out at Portland spread below her. The door opened. "Mom." Marcus ran in, backpack still on from school. He wrapped his arms around her. Sarah held him tight, pressed her face against his hair, felt tears she didn't try to stop. "This is your office." Marcus looked around, eyes wide. "Mom, you have a view." Emma appeared in the doorway, more cautious. "Are we going to be okay now, Mommy?" Sarah knelt down, pulled Emma close. "Yes, baby. We're going to be okay." And for the first time in 4 years, since David died, since the world became hard and cold and impossible, Sarah Mitchell believed it. Courage isn't always loud, grand gestures. Sometimes it's a waitress doing CPR while being attacked. Sometimes it's a billionaire admitting he was wrong. Sometimes it's a woman who refuses to let injustice define her. Sometimes courage is just getting up one more time. And Sarah Mitchell had gotten up. If this story of justice restored moved you, subscribe right now and share this video so others know the truth matters. Comment below. Have you ever been punished for doing the right thing? Your story matters too. We read every comment. You're not alone. 6 months later, April 2026, the screen filled with success metrics, numbers that told a story of transformation. Meridian Employee Wellness Program, 6-month report, 847 employees CPR certified, 4 lives saved using emergency training, 0 retaliation reports filed, employee satisfaction up 43%, turnover down 67%. Washington, D.C., the National Labor Relations Conference. Sarah Mitchell stood at a podium before 2,000 labor organizers, union leaders, and policymakers. She wore a Navy suit. Her voice was steady, confident. 6 months ago, I was a waitress counting change for the bus. Today, I'm here to tell you that corporations can change, but only when workers refuse to be silent. Only when we demand dignity. Only when we remember that every person, regardless of their job title, deserves to be treated as fully human. The audience rose in standing ovation. Sarah's eyes glistened, but she didn't look away. Across the country, Richard Thornton sat in a small apartment in Seattle, unemployed for 6 months. Every job application rejected. His name was toxic in corporate circles. The civil lawsuit Sarah had filed was scheduled for trial in August. His lawyer had advised him to settle. He couldn't afford to settle. Portland, Marcus Mitchell's new school, Lincoln High. His report card showed straight A's in every subject. His guidance counselor had started college application discussions. Stanford, Berkeley, schools that had seemed impossible 6 months ago were suddenly within reach. Emma twirled across a stage in her spring recital, wearing a costume that actually fit, her face radiant with joy. Sarah and Marcus watched from the front row. Sarah held Whitmore's hand, not romantically, but as friends, as allies, as 2 people who had saved each other. St. John's Community Center. A new sign hung above the entrance. Sarah Mitchell Life-Saving Initiative. Free CPR training every Saturday. Funded by a $500,000 Meridian grant. Taught by volunteer firefighters. Open to everyone in the neighborhood, waitresses, janitors, delivery drivers, anyone who wanted to learn how to save a life. Portland News broadcasts featured Sarah's story, from waitress to corporate changemaker. One woman's journey from rock bottom to redemption. The reporter stood outside Meridian Industries. Sarah Mitchell's story has inspired policy discussions at the state level. Governor Kotek has proposed new worker protection legislation nicknamed Sarah's Law. What started with one act of courage has rippled across an entire state. Inside her apartment, the same small rental in St. John's, but now renovated with Meridian's assistance. Sarah tucked Emma into bed. The heater worked. The lights stayed on. The refrigerator was full. Mom, Emma looked up at her. "Are you happy now?" Sarah thought about the question, about the journey, about everything she'd lost and everything she'd gained. Yes, baby, I'm happy. And she meant it. Meridian Industries, 47th floor boardroom, the same room where it had all begun. Sarah led the quarterly employee wellness meeting. 15 executives around the table. Progress reports, success metrics, policy updates, and our mental health hotline has received 347 calls, with 92% of callers reporting satisfaction with an executive at the far end of the table. David Park, VP of Operations, suddenly clutched his chest. His face went white. He gasped, reached out, and collapsed sideways out of his chair. The room froze for exactly 2 seconds. Then 5 people moved simultaneously. Jennifer Hayes dropped to her knees beside Park, checking his airway. He's breathing, but irregular. Marcus Chun positioned his hands for compressions. Someone call 911. Barbara Kent. Yes, Barbara Kent, who had assaulted Sarah 6 months ago and had spent every day since trying to make amends, grabbed the AED from the wall. Sarah didn't move. Didn't need to. She watched calmly, her voice steady. Check airway first. Good, Jennifer. Marcus, ready for compressions if needed. Barbara, AD, ready. Someone time his breathing. If he goes 30 seconds without a breath, we start CPR. Park coughed, gasped. His eyes fluttered open. Color returned to his face. Panic attack, he managed. I think panic attack. Paramedics arrived 4 minutes later. Sarah had called 911 immediately, even while coaching. They confirmed. Severe panic attack, not heart attack. Park would be fine. As they wheeled him out on a stretcher for observation, Park grabbed Sarah's hand. Thank you. All of you. You knew exactly what to do. Sarah smiled. That's the point. After everyone left, the boardroom emptied. Sarah stood alone at the window, looking out at Portland, at the city that had tried to break her, at the city she was helping to change. Whitmore appeared in the doorway. Didn't speak, just nodded. Sarah nodded back. No words needed. The narrator's voice filled the silence. One act of courage didn't just save 2 lives. It changed an entire system. It transformed a corporation. It rippled through a community, inspired legislation. It gave hope to workers who thought the system could never change. And it started with one person refusing to walk away. One waitress who saw a man dying and ran toward him instead of freezing. One billionaire who chose to confront his own complicity instead of hiding behind his wealth. One family that survived the impossible and came out stronger. Courage isn't always loud. It isn't always public. It isn't always rewarded immediately. But it always matters. Sarah Mitchell's courage mattered. And because of it, the next person who collapses in a boardroom, in a cafe, on a street corner, they have a better chance of survival. Because courage is contagious, and change is possible. It just takes one person willing to start. Sarah turned from a window, picked up her bag, headed home to her children. Tomorrow, she would come back and keep changing the system. But tonight, she was going home to the family she'd fought so hard to protect. And that was enough. That was everything. This story is based on real struggles faced by working people every day. The impossible choice between doing what's right and protecting your livelihood. The courage it takes to stand up when everything is stacked against you. The hope that systems can change when good people refuse to stay silent. Subscribe to Letters of the Heart right now for more stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Stories of courage, redemption, and the power of refusing to give up. Tell us in the comments. Have you ever faced injustice for doing the right thing? Have you ever watched someone stand up when everyone else stayed silent? Your story matters. We read every single comment. You're not alone in this struggle. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Because stories like Sarah's need to be told. And people like Sarah need to be celebrated. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. And thank you for believing that one person can make a difference. because they can. Sarah Mitchell proved it. And so can you.